Yeah, so that's the lineup for today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pots. Oh, and my locust back here, my black locust. You see it's just starting to bud out. So 6 pots, 6 new pots from Tom, 6 trees. Let's get at it. I'm going to start the repotting with my black locust here. So I'll get it out of the pot and we'll have a look at the roots. I don't want to damage any of the buds down low on it. So I'll kind of pull it out that way. Okay, so it was buried fairly deeply in the soil. It looks like the roots are just starting to actively grow. You can see white tips on them, so I'll have to be careful not to remove too much root on it. I'm probably repotting it a little late, but that's the way it goes sometimes. All right, let's clean up and see how it fits in the pot. So not exactly what I would call a bonsai root system on here. You can see bumps on the roots. These are nitrogen fixing nodules. So you can see them all over the roots. So I'm going to have to remove the taproot somewhere at some level. I've got 2 surface roots up here, but nothing on this side. So it's not the greatest root system. So what I'll have to do is just prune the taproot off, put it in bonsai soil and let it grow for another year. Hopefully you can see a root growing out here. Maybe there'll be some more radial roots that'll grow naturally. So that's all I can do, is just kind of do a bit of root pruning and pot it up. All right, I'll open up the pots that Tom sent me. Boy, Tom spoils me, I tell you. So thanks very much, Tom. These are awesome. So you can see they have drainage screens built into the bottom of them. Really good pots. If anyone's wondering where these pots come from, they're from that popular website, that jungle website, and that's where they're from. All right, so here's our pot. So I'm going to place the tree in it and just see, so you can see the roots on the bottom of the pot, and my surface roots are way too high. So I've got to take off at least, that much root on the bottom. So I'll do that now. All right, here I go. So I'm going to come in. There's a good root here. It's not a good root, but there's a strong root there. I'm going to try it right here. Like that. So, I have some major surface roots still, and I will prune some of these back. They're a little long, so I'll take it off here, here, and here, and here. That will hopefully, the tree will still live, and by the end of this season it'll be full of new roots in the pot. So I will need some drainage screens in the bottom. These holes are a little coarse for my soil. I've got my drainage screens in the pot. Getting the bonsai roots underway like this, starting to create that, that flat root base on the bottom and the roots tapering down nicely into the soil, a nice radial root base, is an exciting and important step in bonsai. So I'm going to plant it. There's a shoot up top here, so I'll plant it with this towards the front like that. So I'll get out my soil and we'll plant the tree. Tom from Grow and Clip Bonsai for Seniors also sent me some premium reptile bark. It's 100% pure fir bark, and it's the perfect particle size for bonsai soil. So I'll mix this in with the soil I use on my coniferous trees, and I think that'll really help them grow. So thanks, Tom, that's awesome. I'll get in my base layer of soil now. I think that'll do. The tree in here. So I want this to be the height of the soil line. So yeah, that looks pretty good right there. So everything's looking good root wise in the pot. Height's good. It's in the middle of the pot. I'll just move it over a bit. Vertical. I think that's a good planting position. So I'll fill it in with soil now. Here I go. There's a few roots in this soil. That's because there was some weeds growing in it. But I got them all out and I don't think the roots will grow. This is the soil from my yew tree that died. It was too bad, but too much pruning of the roots. Okay, so that's staying in the pot all by itself now. I'll just fill up the soil more. So hopefully the tree will survive this pruning. The rabbits pruned it in winter, cut it down short. It was quite a tall tree. And now I've pruned the roots quite severely. So all we can do is wait and see. Okay, I'll give it a watering. All right, here I go with the water. Give it a good soaking. That should be good like that. This tree has undergone its first bonsai work, and you can see the roots were not very good. So I'm hoping now that it starts to grow new roots in a radial pattern, and then the next time I repot it, I can remove some of those lower roots, develop my surface roots more into a nice radial root base. So yeah, I would say it's 2 or 3 repottings off of getting kind of a nice radial root base on this tree. So we'll just have to keep working on it every time I repot the tree. So on to the next tree now. I also got another exciting gift in the mail. This was from Susan. Susan sent me all those bonsai books. I love those books. I'm still looking through them almost every day. They're fantastic. So she sent me a great big box of bonsai books. She was cleaning out her house. And she also came across some items that she thought I might be interested in because she knew I like science fiction. So she sent me the Starship Enterprise. So this is a dinky toy model, made in England, USS Enterprise, Paramount TV, 1976. And there's doors that open on the bottom here. And I think it used to have little discs that you loaded in the front, and then I think you turn to fire. And it would be some, yeah, I think you just flicked it. And it fired discs out the front. And I imagine this is where you stored the discs. There's a pin on it. So I think the discs were loaded in here for storage. But really cool. I love all these kind of vintage toys. I have a lot of them. I've got a metal eagle from Space 1999. I've got a shadow interceptor from the show UFO. What else have I got? A bunch of metal models from long ago. So thanks, Susan. This is really awesome. I'll add it to my collection of science fiction toys. I think it's really cool. She also sent me a bus. So there's a London bus here, a double-decker bus. Really cool. Nice patina on it. You can see the chips. It's been used by lots of people. So that's really cool. I like that. I think that's really awesome. So I may be able to use that in a penjing someday, maybe with my English oaks or my Royal oaks. Have a British theme to it. Yeah, so thanks, Susan. That is really awesome. The next tree I'll be working on is my elm tree. It needs some work up top too. It's got 2 kind of branches, one on top of each other there. Kind of a triple apex up here. I think the whole thing needs to be reduced in height a bit. This tree is growing in a colander. You can see the holes in the bottom, and that kind of air prunes the roots. So hopefully it has a fairly decent root system in here. It's been so long since I've repotted this that I really can't remember what the root system looks like. So I'll get it out of the pot now. That came out quite easily. So I can see the roots have kind of filled the soil. It doesn't look like the roots are active yet. I don't see any white growing tips on them, so that's good. Repotting it in the nick of time. So I'll get the root base combed out. Here I go. Combing in a radial pattern. So far the root system's looking good. I think I've only repotted this once since it was dug up from the ground. It was just this little seedling growing in the backyard. Right in the pathway, actually. And I thought, oh, that's a little elm tree. I think I'll rescue that. So I did. That was quite a few years ago. Combing out all these weeds on the surface here too. Oh, there's some major roots. Yeah, so these colanders are pretty good. You can buy them at, you know, your secondhand store. You can get stainless steel ones, you can get plastic ones, and they're good for training roots in, growing trees in them. A cheap container that gets you a fairly nice compact root base. Gives you something to work on then. The more roots you have, the more you can select the ones you want to keep and prune away the ones you don't. It is 16 degrees Celsius out today, or 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So just beautiful, you know, considering it was below freezing. Not last night, but the night before. Had a lot of spring weather swings, which always happens every spring. You get warm days and it cools down and snows, and then you get more warm days, and it's just an inconsistent time of year for weather. But I love spring. So it looks like the soil that was in here has a lot of perlite in it, and the perlite's broken down quite nicely. It's almost quite fine, like sand almost. And that breaks down when the roots grow into the perlite and they split one particle into two and so on. So your soil gets kind of finer as the tree gets older, and you develop a really nice fine fibrous root system in that kind of soil. It's very similar to the way akadama works. Sort of a poor man's akadama. So I'm going to flip the tree over now and just start working on the bottom of the roots. So I got the tree overhanging the edge of the table so the branches don't get damaged. I can start combing out from the center, again combing out in a radial pattern. So you're only ripping cross roots, not your nice radial roots that you want to keep. I was searching around for a vintage camper capper shell for the truck, but I couldn't find any. There's some in the States and they want thousands of dollars for them. They're really desirable for the old trucks now, having that kind of 1970s vintage capper on it. But, you know, I'll keep my eyes open. Maybe something will come up in the future. I can always resell this capper and then trade it in on something else. But I think for now I'll be really happy with it. So there's lots of thick roots under here, and I may have to start pruning some away. You can see even with this colander, they've curled around the bottom of the root base here. Gotten really long. Yeah, there's a lot of roots. That one just kind of tore. A lot of roots that have just curled around. So I think I'll get out the pruners. Well, I'll use these ones. I'll start pruning away some of these roots. just keeping my finer roots if I can. All the, you know, the intake of water and nutrients and that is all done with the roots and at the very tip of the roots. The thick roots, all they do is anchor the tree into the ground. They don't transport or don't collect water in the thick part of the root. It's only the root tips, so bonsai trees don't really need to be anchored in the ground that well. So it doesn't really need the big thick roots. It's better to have a mat of fine fibrous roots on a bonsai. And that's why we're always looking to prune away the thick roots and keep the finer ones. You can see there's a lot of good fine roots in this system. So that's getting towards a flat root base. I'm going to take it over to the dunk tank now, and I'll kind of wash and rake at the same time in the water. I'm over here at the water barrel. I can see the ducks have been into it again. They're always drinking and got their beaks in here. So I'm just kind of combing and raking in the water, getting rid of all that old soil, trying to see what the roots look like so I can make good decisions when I go to prune the roots. Now this is working really well. Sure is a nice day today. I just love sunny days like this. Working away on bonsai trees, or bonsai. I guess you shouldn't say bonsai trees because bonsai is the tree in the pot. Can you say bonsai trees? I don't know. Maybe. Miniaturized trees. And you see, I still got some roots. Not sure where that one comes from. I think it comes from over here. And we have to pull this one out. Yeah, like that. So I probably could have repotted this a little sooner. It's a little dense in here, but it's not so bad that it's not manageable. Just taking a little more care, and it takes a little longer than if it was a little less dense. So I think I can take it back to the bench and start pruning away some of the roots to kind of help untangle the root base here. Some of these crossing roots here. Yeah, I can see enough of the root base that I can start making some decisions on what to prune away. And that'll help me comb it out then. At the moment it's pretty dense in here. Alright, I'm back on the bench. So I'm going to remove roots that just aren't growing in a radial pattern. So I don't know about that one, if that can be sorted out, but there's one here. I'm just going to confirm where it starts. I don't know if this is the end of the root, or if this is the start of the root, or if this is the start of the root and this is the end of the root. I've got to confirm that before I start pruning. So what I'm doing now, I'm ripping through a lot of crossing roots and keeping my radial ones. So that ripping sound you hear is intentional. It gets all those crossed roots ripped out of there. Now, I'm still trying to determine where this root comes from and where it ends. So here, it definitely comes from the root base here. Get this out of here. So that is part of the radial root base. You can see it attaches on right there. grows up into the roots. So I can keep the good part, the radial part, and then prune off the part that curls around. So I'll come in here with my root pruners or my bypass pruners, and I'll cut it kind of a horizontal cut down here like that, removing that root, and then hopefully new roots will grow around this cut point in a, you know, more radial direction. So I'm trying to get this old root out of here. It's quite firm in there. Very tangled, but it is coming. Not very easily though. Maybe more combing is in order. Yeah, there's a lot of roots in here. I'm gonna have to cut it, and then I'll get the rest of it out when I get in that area better. So there's another radial root here that takes a dive downwards. I'm going to prune off the part that's growing downwards off. So I'll come in, again, do a horizontal cut with the ground. Get a little deeper, like that. Get the bottom part of that root off, if I can. Again, it's really tangled in there. I got most of it. There we go. Okay, do some combing here. Starting to see all the surface roots now. Getting it untangled. Still a lot of tangled roots in here though. There's part of that root again. There, I got that out. That was a major part. Okay, we are getting down to the base of the root system here. It looks pretty good, actually. Okay, I'm going to give it another wash, and I'll be right back. I've got the roots all cleaned up now, and you can see them really clearly. I hope you can. Yeah, so there's some good stuff happening with these roots. It's awesome. So I'm going to begin the root pruning. So here's one. It starts to flow down nicely into the soil, and then it starts going back uphill. So I'm going to take the upper part of that off, or the part that grows upwards, like that. So that helps blend it into the soil. There's a root here. It's kind of, there's a double root. There's one that goes down lower. There's another one here that, what does that do? Okay, that's that root. You can see there's a root that starts from underneath and goes out. I'm going to get rid of that one. I think I got that one, yep. So that one can come off completely. There's a bit of a root growing out the bottom I'm going to remove. Just keep the root base flat on the bottom. Now, let's have a look. That one's fine. These ones are too long here. You can see there's a nice radial root, subdivides, and then it starts curling around the pot. So I'm going to take this part of it off, like that. And there's one here. I've got one, two, three roots growing on top of each other. So which one to keep? Well, the one that flows from the trunk into the soil the nicest, which is this bottom one. So I've got to get rid of the ones on top. Like that. And there's one here. That one's okay. It kind of subdivides at a good level. This one could be pruned back shorter here. Again, here I have a root growing on top of another root. I'm going to prune the bottom one off shorter to here, like that. Now, elms are pretty good at growing roots, so you can reduce the root base on them quite severely. Get rid of that one. There's one here that's not growing very radial, so I'll take the tip off of it. This one's kind of not very radial. I don't think I want this bottom one at all, so I'm going to take it right off. Like that. There's one growing up from the bottom here. I guess that one could be encouraged in a radial pattern, so I'll keep it. Over here I have a lot of roots. It's a lot of vigor. I think I want to prune off this one. There. Prune this one back shorter. That one shorter. General trim to the outside. And that, I think, is about it for the roots. Really getting down there on this elm, but, you know, a step forward for the root base. I'm going to prune the upper part of the tree now, and I'm going to do some pretty severe pruning. It's too tall. It's too tall and skinny. I'm starting to get some good branching down lower, so I'll probably remove a lot off the top. So I have this double branch here, one on top of each other. This one has kind of a nice cascading branch here. I'll take the dead part off and we'll start with there. Like that. Tough decisions here. I'm looking for a leader that I can grow. Well, I can take the top off here. There's a nice flowing leader, so I'll do that. Like that. And then I'll reduce this branch back to here. And I got to decide which branch I want to keep here. I've got a lower one here. Do I like that cascading branch? It's not the greatest. It's kind of an awkward kink here, so I'm going to remove it. For now, keeping this branch and this one, but maybe even I think I'm going to keep the upper branch and get rid of this one. Like that. It's gone. And then I'm going to shorten this one to here. Like that. Take. There's a vertical one here. I'll take that off. Trim this one back. I think that's it. So quite a reduction for the elm in both the roots and the top of the tree. But I think, you know, in this new bonsai soil, repotted, let it grow this summer and see what develops on the tree. So let's get it in the pot now. I've got my drainage screens in and I'm adding a base layer of soil. So I'll leave it a little high and then we'll position the tree in the pot. I've got to find a front for the tree. This side has that, you know, where a major branch died back. I think it was the leader at one point. But I don't know. I think the root base is the best here, so I'll plant it this direction. About like that, I think. Let me look at that from the front. Yeah, I think that looks fine. Bit of a stick in a pot, but it'll develop branches and someday it'll be a really, really nice bonsai tree. Or bonsai. Alright, let's get the soil worked in here. It's starting to firm up in the pot. There's still a little air spaces underneath that I'm working the soil underneath there. It's getting better. Yeah, it's good and firm in the pot now. So that is planted. I'll give it a good watering now. I'm hoping that the elm grows really well this year, gets a lot of new branches growing on it, so I can maybe reduce the height even more. I could just do a trunk chop, cut it off and see what grows, but just in case it doesn't get any new branches here, it's nice to have a flowing leader. So I've reduced the height by some, so that's good enough for this stage in the tree's life. So on to the next tree now.